entrepreneurs all over African continent. Welcome to another session of the Afropreneur Talk, And this session, the topic for this session, we'll be talking about who should never be an entrepreneur. Who should not be an entrepreneur, whatever word you want to use. There are some people who are not, who should not have anything to do with entrepreneurship. And who is that person? Before I begin to talk about this person, the word entrepreneurship has become a cliche. Everybody wants to become an entrepreneur. Both in Africa, both in Europe, both in the States. Everybody wants to have something, it's like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, The governments are encouraging entrepreneurship and all of that. If you are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, I need you to listen to what I'm about, to talk about now. I need you to pay attention to this topic. Who is that person that should not be an entrepreneur? As I go into the discourse, I'm going to share with you two stories. The first story is about two individuals. Two individuals, I want to talk to you about them. One of them is Ronald Wayne. And I'm going to tell you 7 things about Ronald Wayne that you must pay attention to. The number one thing about Ronald Wayne is that he's a co-founder of Apple. For those of us who do not know, I'm sure most of us know the Apple. Today, it's $1 trillion company. But Ronald Wayne was one of the co-founders. There are 3 guys who started Apple. We all know Steve Jobs. We all know Steve Wozniak. And then the third person, who a lot of people do not know about. And I'll tell you why a lot of people did not pay attention to this guy. So this guy was a co-founder of $1 trillion. At that time, Apple was not it was not $1 trillion company. So this guy, a co-founder, number one. Number 2, this guy was so important in the setup of Apple, in the beginning of Apple, that he wrote the first partnership agreement for Apple. The third thing about this guy, he designed the first Apple logo. The first logo, probably not the present one, but the first logo Apple had was designed by this guy. The fourth thing about this guy is that he wrote the manual. The first Apple computer, he wrote the manual. That's how important this guy was in the Apple setup in the beginning. The fifth thing about this guy, and this is where the story gets very awful, he sold 10% of Apple. This guy is very popular today. If you Google the guy who sold 10% of Apple, is this guy. His name is Ronald Wayne. He sold 10% of Apple for $800, not even up to $1,000. He sold it. The sixth thing about this guy, it's bad enough to sell your shares. He forfeited his right to claim anything called Apple. He forfeited it. They called him. They said, we're about to go public. We're about to go, register as a corporation. We want to give you some money. Once you take this money, you are not going to come back 10 years later and say, oh, I need to lay a claim to this part of Apple. For that, do you know how much they gave him? $1,500. $1,500 to forfeit all your right forever. The sixth thing about this guy, because he was the guy that, wrote the first partnership agreement, that document, that paper was with him. And down the line, he sold that same paper. He sold it. I'm trying to remember the year now. Sometimes in the 90s, that paper was with him. Do you know how much he sold it for? He sold it for $500. In 2011, the same document was auctioned for $1.6 million. The same document he sold for $500. There's something offish about this guy. So I'm speaking to people who you're trying to think, or you're considering becoming an entrepreneur. I want to inform you. I want you to understand why. Because there are some people who should not be an entrepreneur. That's the story of this guy, Ronald Wayne. Look at the story. The second person I'd like to talk to you about, the second story, is the story of a young girl who joined Alibaba as a receptionist, sometimes in 1998. He joined Alibaba as a receptionist. Some years down the line, maybe a year, 2 years down the line, Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, gave her 0.2%, not 2%, 0.2, not half a percent, 0.2% of Alibaba, and said to her, this 0.2% of Alibaba that I'm giving to you one day will be worth $100 million. That was the vision Jack Ma gave to this young girl who was the receptionist. That I'm giving you 0.2% of this company. And when this company goes to the stock market, this 0.2% will become 100 million. And so this is probably around maybe 2000 and all of that. And 4 years later or so, in 2004, she went to Alibaba. When are we going to the stock market? Jack Ma said to her, don't worry, we'll be going soon. She waited another 2 years and went back to Jack Ma and said, I'm here. When are we going to the stock market? Because she was already dreaming about $100 million. Nothing happened in 2006. Alibaba did not go to the stock market. But guess what? In 2014, Alibaba went to the stock market. Do you know the valuation? Alibaba became a $245 billion company. $245 billion company. Guess what the 0.2% shares was worth? 0.2% shares of Alibaba was worth $320 million. That was what a receptionist. And now the question is this. Why? What's the difference? What's the difference between Ronald Wayne and Tom Wenhock? What's the difference? What's the difference between the two? Do you know the difference? One was a believer. The other was a non-believer. What do I mean? Whatever you do, you must be a believer in whatever you do. Ronald did not believe in the Apple dream. He did not believe in it. In fact, one of the things Ronald said was that the stress of running a company was too much, and he didn't want to be part of that. Another thing Ronald said was that he has had a bad experience because he was the oldest of the three founders. So he said, I don't want to go through that again. So Ronald was not a believer. He knew, he said years later on, he said, I know the company will succeed, but guess what? I don't believe this company, I can't go through that stress. So Ronald was not a believer, but this young girl was a believer. If you want to become an entrepreneur, the question is this: should I wait? What are you doing today? Do you believe in what you're doing today? Do you believe the project you're doing today? Do you believe in the mission that you are working on today? If you're not a believer of that dream, if you're not a believer of that vision, you should not become an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs are believers. Because there's going to be reasons for you to give up. There's going to be reasons for you to abandon ship. There's going to be reasons for you not to want to do it again. All those people, Jack Ma was a believer. He was a believer. Bill Gates was a believer. They believed in what some of these guys, the latest one is Zoom. Zoom was working for Oracle. He took the Zoom idea to Oracle. He wanted to sell it to them, but they did not believe in him. But he believed in himself. So I ask you, do you believe in yourself? In conclusion, who is that person that should not be an entrepreneur? The person that should not be an entrepreneur is a man or a woman who does not believe in their dream. If you do not believe in whatever you're doing, you do not have any business becoming an entrepreneur, especially in Africa, because some people will not believe in your dream. The closest people to you will not believe in your dream. People you love most will not believe in your dream. You have to believe. You have to be the one who is a believer. This is food for thought. If this program has been, has been something that, if it has helped you, if you've learned something from this few minutes of what I've shared, please follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on LinkedIn, follow us, we're on Instagram, like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, and till next time, when I come back to you from the Afropreneur Hub, my name is Kehinde Owolade, and to all Afropreneurs out there, I know things are tough, but guess what? As Afropreneurs, we are believers of our dream, and I wish you all the success. And as you make success, please send me a DM, send me a message. Thank you. God bless.